Adrian a little bit of spazzy?
I love when that happens. All right, we're back with some more of the anonymous coverage. I'm Lauren, as with me always Adrian. Today we have some double trouble in the house. We have Jack and Nina joining the pod. How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
I'm also good. And also, how are you?
Oh, we're doing great.
Happy
having a blast watching the show. It's been wonderful, and you two have had such an impact on that. It's been glorious. I appreciate both of you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
First thing, I'm going to just dive right into this. Jack, you recognize maybe who Nina is potentially. Go and run, start rumbling and talk to a couple people about it, and just walk us through that. And then Nina, give me your take on all that, watching it all unfold.
So, okay. Yeah, I'll give you the background on how I figured it out. Also, you better believe I love these shows. I'm a gamer. I'm a man of, the internet era and television. So I look at the comments online and everyone's saying, what producer told Jack that Nina was Sandra's daughter? And I'll tell you, none of them did. Mm-hmm. I just went for it. I had a couple little nuggets of information. The first one right off the bat is that in the first challenge, Nina went for 5, the memorization thing. And I thought, that's smart. That's someone who's smart, going right in the middle. I think that it was a great call, and I got to sit next to Nina and do our little chit chat. I thought she was funny and cool and smart. Boom. One nugget right there. That's a little piece of info. Second piece of info is that she looks like her mom. She does. I've watched Sandra win 2 Survivors. So, she's a big face, big name. And when you see Nina, you go, there's a resemblance. So that's 2. Number 3 is that when we were first doing our little get to know you intro moments that didn't necessarily all make it to the air, Tyrene was talking about how she works in the Army, and Nina says, "Oh, my dad works in the Army." 3. And then number 4, when we got to Nina's, tell us about yourself, Nina says, "I work in accounts payable," which turns out to be true, but my brain goes, and that's not why you're here. So that's just, those were all the things rattling through my brain. And, they pull you into the interviews. And at one point I just said, I think Nina's Sandra's daughter. I started calling her baby Sandra in every interview. I literally went in there. I was like, you're going to have such a hard time changing my mind. And I'm going to look like such a dope if I'm wrong. I'm saying it in every interview. And I just went with it. Fun to be right. I truly didn't know. I had no confirmation until after the show. So there's the how it happened tale. For the telling people, I think I told Christopher and Xavier, I kind of wanted to work with Nina. I thought it was so cool to get to work with Nina, to get work with Sandra's daughter. I'm a huge fan. So it was like, the coolest thing I can do is work with Nina. And I just wanted to go and have fun on the show and do cool things and play hard. And to me, that was cool. But I did want to win. I'm playing for myself at the end of the day. And so I thought maybe sowing that seed a little bit would be helpful. And I didn't want to blow up Nina in a major way. I told them, please don't tell right now. Don't confront her about it. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wanted to just put the seeds out there to hopefully reap later. That was sort of my thinking with it. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that turns into anything or nothing or just what going forward. But there was all my thoughts with it. Yeah.
I mean, you're just you're planting some seeds of minor misdoubt or people worried about Nina, which I think was a good gameplay move on your part. Respect.
Thank you.
Yep. It was Nina, absolutely amazing.
Did you have any idea at this point in the game?
I had no idea at this point. We're 6 episodes deep. I have no idea. And all I can think is, as things are going on, see if anybody's watching you, if anybody's saying anything. And there's like little tidbits that you'll get where you hear somebody talking about alliances, strategy, certain words that do ring true in Survivor and are very common there. And this is the first time that the Anonymous is getting played. So we don't have those specific words yet, you know, that really speak to being on the Anonymous only. So I'm like, okay, a lot of people here are using words that are familiar with, that I familiarize myself with on Survivor. And then here we have Xavier. And I'm like, oh, a lot of winners, no winners. And I've never met him, but I'm pretty sure my mom has. And then he comes in like, yeah, I'm on Big Brother. And as you can see in episode 1, I'm like, anybody else been on TV? Anybody? And all I could think was, I think it was me who said it. All I could think was, if anyone looks at me, they know. And I'm just like looking, no one look. Okay, great, amazing. And then I'm trying to like remind myself, try not to use too many words, being that these are from the producers of The Traitors. The Traitors was brought up, Survivor was brought up. People want to know if anybody did research. And I'm like, is The Traitors like the circle? Like they sit on a circle table thing, right? Like, I don't know. Oh. And I just try to like engage a little bit, but stay away from the conversation. I did not think up until that point anyone knew anything. And if they did, the only person I really had on my radar was Xavier. But I mean, 6 episodes deep, you don't say anything. I'm not saying anything at this point. If it comes out later, I'm going to be like, well, you know, and try and see if I can diverge from it. If it doesn't come out, amazing, great for me. But at this point, I don't know anything. And I was super, super excited to watch it because I had no idea. I saw a clip on like Instagram and I was like, Mom, we're staying up until 11 o'clock. We're watching this together. And anyone who knows my mom knows she's the queen. She got a big old head, like Jack said. So she's like, oh my God, he knows. And all this and that. Just because of that, she loves Jack. And then here goes Xavier. Sandra Diaz-Twine? He puts me to shame. And she's like, that's right, Xavier. Yes, I love him too. And I'm like, so you're not even mad that they're talking about me? She's like, girl, ain't nobody worried about you. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. But either way, I was super, super impressed first and foremost. Very excited to see it. Obviously, I'm like, oh my God, what can come from this? I don't know. And then to just be on the other side, sitting around like, nobody knows anything. It was really fun to watch.
I love it. And it's so interesting too, because sometimes you see it one of two ways. If they recognize somebody, they say, oh, I want that person out immediately. Whereas Jack saw you and said, I want her close to my chest because it's better to have someone that knows the game well. And I think that's kind of the strategy both of you kind of had. I want to play with people that know the game and kind of can figure out the dynamics of it.
Yes, 100%.
Definitely. I mean, it also sort of works with my strategy. I guess I can talk a little bit about the strategy. So I'm the game player. I'm a board gamer, video gamer. I feel like I got brought on the show to try and like push the limits of the game and show how the game is played, which hopefully I'm doing to some extent. And my strategies, my thoughts, you know, try and win the Anonymous, try and fool people, try and be the person who is, you know, directing the flow of the game. But counting on that every time is unlikely to work out. It's a bad strategy, frankly. And so what that means is that no matter who is the Anonymous, you kind of want to make sure that you're not their choice to get out. You want to be, you know, everybody's second or lower choice, and also make sure that whoever they would choose in front of you is also at risk. We lost Nina. She got eliminated.
Oh, no. What happened?
Jack eliminated you.
No, she's back. She's back. I would never. So part of my thought of wanting to keep, you know, strong players, savvy people in the game is that I think on people's radar, they're, you know, I call them threat levels would stay high, relatively high. And I think the more perceptive the player, the higher they would see Nina's threat level, the higher they would see Xavier's threat level. And so for me, I think it's a good strategy for me, not for everybody, but for me, to keep those types of players in the game.
Like hiding amongst giants.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
I love that.
It's a great strategy, and obviously we're going to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks. Nina, did you have a similar thought process in that?
Yeah, my main thing is always, always, always relationships. I knew that this was something brand new to all of us, which is amazing. But in my experience, it's always the relationships. Who can I make sure is either more threatening than me, or who can I make sure cares for me in a different way? So I think it's same, but a little bit different than Jack, where I was like, okay, I mean, I think it was like day one, we were doing our introductions and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't care. You know, like I want to get to the game. And I saw that with like Jack and Andy. I'm almost sure I pulled them to the side and I was like, do y'all care about these intros or can we get to it? And they were like, we can get to it. And I was like, amazing, great. And I don't have to do that with Xavier, right? Like, you know, Xavier's coming to play. So the same thing with Jack. I want to play with these big players because one, threat level, but two, collaborating. These people who are really, really thinking about the game constantly and wanting to, you know, solve for the next day. How do I get to that next day? Sometimes you pigeonhole yourself, and I'm really a part of wanting to collaborate with people. And that's something Jack did almost instantly with me, like willing to conversate. And that's something I gravitate to anytime I'm playing a game. I mean, in life, somebody shut down, you're not talking to them. Someone who's open, you're like, all right, let's see what's going on here. And that I really gravitate towards. And that also showed me and made me feel like, okay, here's one person that at least for now is on my side. Who's going to be the next person? Okay, he's close with Andy. Let's see how I can get with Andy. Xavier is constantly thinking, can I get in with him? Because if he's running this, I need to make sure he's not going to send me home. You know, all these little factors and those relationships in and outside of anonymous mode are what get you to the next day.
Love that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the handles here, because that's the most interesting part, I think, because you're really having to look at all of these. What is going to help me not stand out to other people? How am I going to hide? How am I going to fake people out? So, Jack, I'll let you go first and talk about football, because that is one of the bigger ones that we see with the storyline with you and Andy in regards to your relationship with him in person versus him in the anonymous mode.
Sure. I kind of locked in on football early on because I had a strategy, not so much with Andy, but I wanted to double bluff as a woman pretending to be a guy. And I thought football was the most gendered sort of handle. And so I ran with that. And my first message was like, dudes, which is actually a word I do say a lot. But everyone's like, dudes. That's a woman. And so I think it worked. And then I sort of realized that I think people maybe perceive me as being close to Andy. And so I put him up partially because I also didn't think he was necessarily really at risk of going. I didn't think anyone would send him home. I could be wrong, but we never had to find out because it worked out. So yeah, it was all a big deflection. It's kind of interesting because then as you get further into the game, it's like, do I stick with the same thing? Would people perceive me as the guy who would stick with the same thing? And so it's such a hard juggling act. How do I put the people who I want to put at risk, but also stay anonymous? And it's a crazy juggling act. And when the handle switch hits, do I stick with the same thing? Well, there isn't another football to go with, so what do I do? It's a crazy thing. It's the first time this game's been played. So our brains, I think, are constantly trying to figure out what's coming up. Is there another handle change coming up? How do I, position myself and do something that no one would expect of me, or would everyone expect everything of me? It's hard to necessarily get a read. So what I would just do is I just had an idea and I just run with it. And who knows? I would say, I don't know if it's going to work, but I just got to take this idea and try it. It's a try, and everyone's just trying stuff. And I think it's so cool to watch back, because being in it, you don't know the stuff that people are trying. You have no idea. There's so much unknown information, and you can sit there and speculate and guess, but you've no idea. And in fact, as people are getting eliminated, you realize you're sucking. You don't know anything. So, you know, the first episode, I'm like, I became the anonymous, and I get out Sydney because I think she maybe put me at risk, because Wizard put me at risk, and I'm right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know everything. And then the next person gets sent out, Casey, and I got her handle wrong. And then the next person goes home and I got their handle wrong. And then the next person go home and they showed they had 2 handles, which I both got wrong. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know most of what's going on here. So it's a crazy game. It's a crazy game. I don't know. Obviously you didn't get the anonymous the first, 5 times at least. Mm-hmm. How were you feeling in those moments?
In all honesty, I'm a learner. I'm an observer. So I thought to myself, getting the anonymous is the goal, right? But if I don't, as long as I'm learning, I'm okay with it. And I thought, one, I do talk a lot, but I talk very clearly. So I said, let me go gender neutral. Let me not pick a handle that is kind of correlated or assigned a gender typically. So I'm like, popcorn, we're observing, we're watching, we're chilling, we're going to learn. And while I didn't get the anonymous, I also didn't get put at risk. So I'm doing something right, Yeah. So that was the first thing that I was like, okay, try and be gender neutral. Try not to use any terms or anything that's going to tie specifically to you, but also not really to anyone else. So maybe it'll be a little bit harder to pin you down, and obviously not hard enough because I didn't get the anonymous, but there were some movements that I could see, okay, this is kind of working. Let's see what the new handle change. Let's do the same thing. Pick something gender neutral. See if we can kind of build off of this, but also, play into a little Survivor. I was like, no one said anything about Survivor, so I'm going to be Fire because
I knew it.
Yeah, I wish that, people knew, but I was like, Fire represents life.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm going to burn my enemies to the ground. Yeah. But also, this is my little like, haha, I'm on Survivor or was on Survivor type thing. And I kind of thought the same thing. Let's learn, let's observe. Now we're getting put at risk. But are people really coming after you? I mean, Andy said, Nina's Switzerland. Why are people putting her up? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me, like, who is it? And so it's really fun to watch because also, just like Jack said, you don't know. Like when people's handles were getting revealed, I was like, good Lord, we need to learn a little bit more and a little bit quicker. And then watching Lily, like, actually not want me to go home. I'm like, okay, great. That feels good to watch, but like, you're still putting me at risk. And like Jack said, he didn't want Andy to go home, but you understand the risk. Like they could go home. And he understood that. So I'm like, Lily girl, chill out. Like, you actually don't want me to go home, so don't do it. But yeah, those handles, they were really fun. And I love everybody's differences because I'm like, let's be gender neutral. Jack is like gender all the way, so I can kind of play off of it. And other people are like, let's do kind of little funny things like Xavier being scissors, like, baby, I love seeing that kind of gameplay and how different everyone is. And that's something about this cast that I absolutely love. We're on completely different wavelengths playing the same game for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've been talking about with just about everybody is that the casting was just spot on. Like, you had so many people with so many different ways of looking at the game, ways of choosing their handles, etc. I just think that you guys, each and every one of you, are just chef's kiss. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
It's been awesome to watch. We've really enjoyed it. The last question I do have for both of you. Obviously, we're watching Just As You Are. Who are you most surprised with just watching their gameplay?
I don't know where he is on my thing. That one, wherever. I'm gonna go first, Jack, because I'm like, whoa. And it's amazing because thus far we can see that we are working together. We are, somewhat close, which I'm like, yes. amazing. So happy that we actually genuinely bonded in and outside of talking about game or life or whatever. Super surprised that he was football and all this stuff with Andy, and me and Andy are like, no, it's this person, that person. Watching Jack in those conversations, because this is what I wanted to see the most. I wanted to see everyone's reactions when their handles and things are brought up in front of them, to be like, you know, like The Office, like you look at the camera like, whoa. But Jack is like, nah, you know, like, yeah, I think it was. And I was like, dang, so good. So I would say him for sure for me.
I appreciate. Thank you, Nina. Nina, not surprising me because I instantly knew who you were, and so I had high expectations.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna answer with Lily. Lily, to me, you know, you go through the first 3 episodes probably thinking Lily's fish, and she's up there and she's weepy, and understandably so. And so you're thinking, oh, she's having a tough time with it. Turns out she's super benefiting by Xavier pretending to be her, and she's getting like top 2 every time. But then beyond that, come into the handle change. Sure, I'm also sort of doing a Lily, which benefits her, but she's totally playing. She's doing, she's going hard. And you don't know that necessarily at the time. And I loved watching that back. I thought that was so cool. I could say a lot of people were super surprising, but I'm just going to stick with Lily for now on that one.
Yeah, no, Lily, like her growth over the first couple episodes has been phenomenal. Like she may have stumbled in the beginning of the race, but she picked it up and she's running with it now. And I love seeing that. So definitely astute.
100%.
Right. It's always great to just see someone rise up after. We're thinking as a viewer, she's probably going pretty soon here, and then she's still there. And we even said, I think she's going to go far. Obviously, we have no idea what happens, but it's just fun to watch people start out low and then get so much better. It's very enjoyable as a viewer to see. But both of you are doing fantastic. It's been really awesome having you two on with Adrian and myself. It's so much fun. We hope to have you both back in the future if you would like.
For sure, absolutely. I love chit-chatting about this stuff.
I also do. I also love being able to talk about it a little more openly. So, you know, when the thing's out and we're allowed to talk about it, I would love to come back and spill my guts.
All the tea.
Yeah.
Double trouble right here. Well, Nina, Jack, thank you so much again. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Lauren and Adrian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You guys are phenomenally entertaining, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So thank you.
Thank you.
For sure.